According to the American Dental Association, the average dentist retires 7 to 8 years later than the average American. In this video, I'm going to break down why that's the case and how you can avoid being an average dentist. Hey everyone, my name is Matt Molcock. I'm one of the managing partners and senior advisors at Dentist Advisors, here to talk about all things retirement. So let's first talk about why this even matters. And I think it's actually pretty simple. Dentists want control over when they can retire or make work optional. Even if you're going to work much beyond your financial independence number, once you reach that, most dentists just want to have the control to be more intentional about when that comes up. And they want more control and understanding of where they even fall on this kind of spectrum of how close you are to being able to retire. So I think that's really what it comes down to, is just having the option. I think most dentists want that and an understanding of where they stand. So let's talk about why this is the case. Why is this gap so wide between the average dentist and the average American? And then at the end, again, we'll break down how you can be the person who avoids that and is not an average dentist. So this is certainly not an exhaustive list as to why there's such a wide gap, but certainly things that there's four big ones that we see as to why this is the case. So number one, the average dentist makes a lot more money than the average American. So you might hear that and say, wait a second, well, that means that if I have a high income, shouldn't that put me in a better position to be able to retire sooner than the average American? I think on its face, on the surface, yes, that would be the case. But what we've seen is high income tends to lead to higher spending, especially if you don't have a system or if you're not intentional and proactive in what to do with that high income. And so that tends to be a problem. Also, kind of a nuance to this is a lot of dentists, because of the nature of how you got to where you are, there's a delay. There was a delay in you achieving that high income. So because you're in school 4 years, sometimes longer if you're doing a residency, than your peers, you're in that training mode and in that school mode for longer than a lot of your peers. You're around there, you're looking around and seeing your peers ascend in their career, increase their income much sooner. So a lot of times when you come out of school and you get into practice, either as an associate or as an owner, you have that kind of built up angst, and now you have a high income. And so a lot of times that leads to higher spending. And so higher spending creates a vicious cycle when it comes to retirement. So high income, high spending, what that leads to is you need more in order to retire. If you spend more, you need more. And the problem with that is if you need more, that means you need to save more. But if you're spending more, see where I'm going with this? It's a vicious cycle. And so what that usually leads to is needing to work much longer to achieve the goal of being able to build enough wealth to actually make work optional. So that's the big one. High income leads to high spending for a lot of dentists, which just adds more time to the overall plan before you can achieve retirement. Number two is complexity. The complexity of a dentist's life is just unique to dentists compared to a lot of different professions. You've got, especially if you're a practice owner, you've got, endless amounts of things to deal with on the business side. You're dealing with all the things a business owner has to deal with between HR, leadership, marketing, payroll, all the different aspects that come with that. And also you're a clinician. So patient care, getting case acceptance to a level that you need to have it. All the different things that come with, insurances. There's so many things that you're dealing with kind of as this business owner of CEO and also a clinician. The term that we use a lot is you truly are an entreprofessional. Add on top of that, your personal life, both personal finances and then just your personal life with family, you have a very, very complex situation. The debt loads you have, as I mentioned, the higher income, all of this comes together to create a really kind of perfect storm of complexity. And so with that complexity often comes disorganization. And what we see all the time with dentists is majority, if not all, financial mistakes have origins back to being disorganized, not having a ongoing system of organization, tracking the right data, the key metrics, and knowing where you stand. So that's it. That's a big one, is being disorganized. I would say number three is a nature of your work. So I'd say mastery creates boredom for a lot of dentists. So you work in an industry and at a craft that some time in your career you're going to master, that you do master, and that's a great thing. But the repetitive nature of dentistry and just the level of skill and expertise and knowledge that dentists have again gets you to a place of achieving mastery at some stage. We tend to see it somewhere kind of 7 to 10 years into a career. On the clinical side, dentists often achieve this mastery, which again, that's a great thing. But one of the results, one of the second order effects of mastery is boredom. So why is that a problem? Well, when you get bored in your work, you start to look elsewhere for excitement. And that's great if it's in a hobby. Where that becomes a problem for a lot of dentists is they start to look outside of their business and outside of their life to find some excitement on when it comes to building wealth. They start to believe because they're bored, because they're like, okay, I do the same thing every single day. It starts to feel less sexy. And so I think there becomes a disconnect of what you're doing and just kind of following this consistent system to build wealth. So you have what we call shiny object syndrome. And there is no shortage of people out there that are willing to sell you a shiny object. And so you combine the boredom the dentists feel sometime like 7 to 10 years, maybe 12 years into their career, with the abundance of people out there selling you some shiny object. That can often lead to a lot of bad decisions when it comes to investing and trying to fast track wealth. And don't get it twisted. Building wealth is a series of lots of consistent good decisions and a system just of consistency and avoiding big mistakes. And we have countless amounts of stories and endless evidence to show that a couple of mistakes here or there over the course of your career can be catastrophic. Number four comes down to comparison. So the reference group of dentists, whether it be in your neighborhood or your class that you graduated with, dentistry is really small. And we see a lot of dentists comparing themselves to, again, their classmates or their buddy, or they hear a lot of different stories. And this, kind of like the last one, can lead to a lot of distractions and a lot of attempts to fast track wealth, but really resulting in huge mistakes and actually extending your time frame to retirement. So those are the four. High income leads to high spending. Your complex life leads to disorganization. Number three is that mastery is creating boredom in your life, so you start to chase shiny objects. And then number four is playing the comparison game. Those are four big reasons. Again, not an exhaustive list, but four reasons that we see this happen to dentists where they retire so much later. So the question is, what can you do about it? I can tell you right now, the answer is not a hack or more hustle. There are things on the business that you could possibly do to, of course, increase productivity or maximize profits or grow collections, of course. But oftentimes this isn't more hustle. This isn't a hack. This isn't some special tip. There are some practical, intentional things of how you apply or how you approach this in your life in order to become someone who retires more on your terms than to become the average dentist. So number one, I would say, is you have to start putting in some real work into some core questions and some really simple questions. They're simple, but they're not always easy to answer. Follow kind of a what, why, and how. So first of all, is what are we trying to accomplish? What time frame actually makes sense for you? Have you even thought about that? Have you even put in the time to talk to your spouse or your partner about what do we actually want out of our life, out of our wealth? Number two, most importantly, beyond anything, is why. Why does that matter to you? I think getting really into the details there of why that matters is really, really critical. And to have this open conversation with your spouse or partner. And then the how. How are we actually going to do it? Creating some coherence around these questions, around these answers, is really critical. A really critical place to start. This all comes down to the life you're trying to design, and then creating a financial plan and investment strategy to support it. This all comes down to your values, your goals, your concerns, the money story you're telling yourself. This is not woo-woo stuff. This is actual practical work that needs to be put in, conversations that need to be had in order to lay the foundation of the systems and financial plan you're going to build upon it. Next, you have to get organized, and not a one-time organization. A financial plan or getting organized is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process. So really, you need a process or a system around organization. This is the quintessential know where we stand. On that map, you are here. That takes some work. You've got to know your net worth. You've got to put together a cash flow statement. You've got to understand your insurances and your overall risk profile, your estate plan, your saving strategy, and all the different moving parts of where we're investing and what we're investing in. Kind of connecting all our debt strategy. How are we balancing debt payoff with savings and investing? The retirement plan at the office could go on and on. You've got to get organized around these things and know where you stand. Here's a big one: spending. You've got to be able to track how much you're spending. So getting organized around your financial life after you've put in the work of understanding what life you even want to live, and where money kind of what role money plays for you in that life. That's number one. And then getting organized. Once you're organized, you have to understand how to actually assess where you stand, right? So getting organized is the process of building your net worth statement, let's say, or your cash flow. Next is, well, is this good or is this bad? How do I set clear targets around this? So at Dentist Advisors, we've created what we call a financial hygiene chart, and it's all available on the website. You're able to get this at dentistadvisors.com. But this is our proprietary process and system that, again, we give to dentists that you can start to model in your own life around assessing all the key indicators of your financial health. So this is the same as if a dentist or if a patient came into your office and you did all the proper exams and x-rays and looked at their gum lines and assessed where they stand today with their oral health. This is the same process and system for assessing your financial health. And it's, again, 12 key indicators for you to start to look and say, where am I weak? Where am I maybe shortchanging myself, or where areas of opportunity for me to focus? So you have to be able to assess that financial health in order to then set clear targets and goals and start to establish action plans. This is the how of how we're actually going to accelerate our timeline to meet our specific goals. Lastly, I'd say oftentimes what dentists need is accountability. Obviously, financial advisor here, been doing this for almost 15 years. Dentist Advisors has been around for almost 20 years. You could argue, yeah, okay, you're biased. You're saying accountability. You're saying we need a financial advisor. I do fully believe that majority, if not all, dentists could benefit from help from a fee-only fiduciary professional advisor, for sure. But when we say accountability, it doesn't have to be an advisor, but it should be somebody in your life, hopefully removed. Could be a CPA, could be a business coach, certainly could be a financial advisor, could be another dentist. But some accountability system in place in order to, you set the goal, that's great. Now, how are we going to get there, and how are we going to actually stick to that over time? You need to have some type of system for accountability. So those are the things that we'd say, to get organized, be super intentional at the life you're designing, have an accountability partner in this, and have some way to track your metrics and goals, and know kind of where you stand and what things you need to be working on. Remember, this is an ongoing process. This is not a one-time event. Anything worth anything, any worthy goal is going to be something that is unsolvable. It's not something that you just say one day, I'm healthy, nothing else has to happen. Or I've solved parenting, we're all good. Or, leadership, I'm done with that. Or wealth, we're good. These are ongoing. This is an ongoing process. This is an infinite game. And so keep that in mind, that when you talk about or think about these things of accountability, organization, intentionality, it's something that you have to continue to focus on. So if there's anything we can do to help, we are here. We work with hundreds of dentists all over the country. You can go to dentistadvisors.com, click on the book free consultation button, or just go to our education library. We've got endless amounts of podcasts and webinars and articles in order to help you get to this place of not being an average dentist and to be able to make work optional on your terms.